What's going on, Internet? How are you guys doing tonight?
Excellent.
Are you having fun,
How
Zach?
about you?
I'm doing. I'm going to say I'm doing great.
I'm doing great.
No one's interested in hearing that I'm tired beyond belief.
That's right. But hey, it's Wednesday, and we're happy to be here.
We're happy to be here. We're happy to be alive.
That's right.
We're actually happy to be in this building with power because the last time we tried to do this, not so much.
Yeah.
That was the eve of our wonderful microburst that took us all
Father's
out for
Day weekend.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah, this has been a long time coming.
Right.
So, are we streaming? Can
Yes,
the internet,
we're on.
can the world see us? Hey, world.
Yeah.
Nick and Zach here with Hasty Bake. We are here with our good friend, awesome Hasty Baker restaurant owner. I could go on and on, but we'll just call him Ken Schafer. How's
That's
that?
right.
That's me.
I mean, unless you
How
want
are
to
ya?
just throw some extra titles on yourself here while we're
Everything but chef.
but everything but chef. Yeah,
There you
we'll
go.
talk about that in a minute. I want to get your definition of chef and because that's always one of my favorite things in the barbecue world. It's the debate. Like, if you call yourself a pit master, you're not a pit master.
That's correct.
And the guys that I know that like they have it like on their shirt, I'm like, buddy, come on.
You can't self-gloss.
No.
You can't do it.
No, my favorite term is fire wrangler.
There you go.
Because
There you
what do you
go.
do? I just sit around and like mess with fire and try to keep it from burning down whatever is surrounding it at the time.
Right.
So yeah, it's always a good one for sure. Hey guys, thank you for joining us. We're getting some people in tonight. We've been running some social media stuff, letting you know that Ken is going to be on, and we're going to have some fun.
Yep.
So Zach, tell us what's been going on in the Hasty Bake world as of late.
I'm trying to remember the last time we met, but
You and me.
well, no, no. How can I miss you if you never leave?
That's the standard. We'll wrap up at 11 o'clock or midnight. We see each other the next morning. We're like,
Yeah.
if you never leave, how can I miss
That's
you?
right. So you and I just got back from Texas.
Yeah, we did.
Yep. Great weekend. Hot.
Very hot weekend.
Very warm, but a great weekend. We had
Yeah.
a blast down there, and back in time to get ready to knock out a couple other events this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. It's we are on the road. For anybody wondering, we are on the road now between now and Thanksgiving. I think every weekend save one, and I'm not going to say what weekend that is because if I do, then someone's going to be like, "Oh,
Right.
hey,
Jinx you.
while you're
That's right.
So no,
Yeah.
it's going to get booked up no matter
Right.
what. I just threw another Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on the calendar on the drive down to Texas, and I haven't told my wife that yet. So, honey, if you're listening, I love you.
She's not.
And she's not.
She's not.
She's learned at this
Yeah.
point. Like, it's just not worth the drama. And I don't want to come home from a podcast and be like, so
Yeah.
I heard tonight.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
better this way. Put the kids down. It's fine. All right. Well, so we were in Decatur.
Yeah.
Had an awesome event out in Decatur, Texas with Outlaw Barbecue Association and our good buddy Justin West, who is a pro staffer of Hasty Bake.
Yeah.
Justin has been he's been with us for quite a while. The intro to Justin was cool. So he's been hanging around a bunch of our people for years and years, and they schnookered him into an SCA state competition, and he never cooked steak in his life. And one of our guys said, "Hey, can you send a Ranger down for him to use for the competition?" He's like, "Sure, no problem." So they took a box down. He literally pulled it out of the box, put the legs on it, put a fire in it. Won steak A and steak B double that day on a grill he'd never used in his entire life.
Yeah.
He's a hell of a cook.
Yep.
So, and he's been cooking barbecue forever and a day. He's part of a couple different barbecue teams, but one has won the Houston Stock Show and Rodeo a few times. I know they placed in ribs last year. Outstanding barbecue cook. We're cooking American Royal with him this year. We did as well last year. And then his team also walked, man, I wish I could remember the category, but at Memphis in May. So he's been around the block, and he coordinated that whole thing.
Yeah. Anyways,
So he put that together, about 100-ish, 110 teams or so from around Texas and the country came
and about
together for that.
120 degrees.
And 120 degree. I have
Yeah.
pictures to prove it.
That's right.
120 degree weather in Texas, which feels like 120 degrees in Texas. And it's the surface of the sun.
It's a dry heat.
It's
Yeah.
And normally dry heat
fine.
makes it better. I'm not sure it makes it better
Yeah.
when it feels like the sun is like right here in your
Yeah.
entire So it was hot. It cooled down a little bit on Saturday, but it did not cool down for Zach, who cooked 150 pounds of chicken thighs
Yeah.
and 350 hot dogs and God knows how much Spam and 25 pineapples.
Yes.
And I mean, small stuff.
That's right.
We call them small bites because it makes us feel better about ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
And then had fun on the way down there. We got a mile. We drove all the way to Decatur. Got a mile outside, less than a mile outside of the fairgrounds, and had a tire blowout on the trailer.
That's the worst.
Oh,
it's-
no.
it's
The
not.
worst is yet to come.
Yeah, it's not.
So had a tire blowout, pulled over, luckily was able to get into a spot that was safe enough, got the tire changed, back on the road. Hey, we're good to go. We drive all the way back home. We get into Tulsa. I'm dropping Brian, our digital marketing guy, off at his house. And anyone who's in Tulsa knows Roller Coaster Bridge over there on the Creek Turnpike.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of Roller Coaster Bridge, which it's named that way because the concrete's settled so uneven that it's just you feel like you're on a roller coaster the whole time. 4-foot emergency lane, have a double blowout on the driver's side on that same trailer. And then before we left, one tire looked bad, and I took it down and had it changed. So the other three are what blew, and that one tire was fine. So today I went down to Southern Tire Mart and had them put on all 4 brand new tires, like crazy 14 ply, all steel. Knock on wood, we'll be done with tire problems
Like
for
$4,000 worth of tires.
Yes, I mean that's exactly what it feels like, right? So hey, we'll be back on the road, but we can't afford to be down this season right now because we got way too much going on.
That's right.
So, hey, if you're in the Tulsa area, we're going to be doing a tailgate at TU and OU game this Saturday.
That's a big deal.
Yep.
Big deal. I mean, but how many years has it been since OU played TU here at home?
I think it's since 05 or something like that.
Oh, it's been that long.
Yeah,
Yeah,
long
Oh, I thought it was
it's
like
been
4 or
a-
5 years.
Oh, no, it's
Long
been a long
time.
time.
Oh, shoot.
for
Okay.
sure.
Well, yeah, really big deal then.
Yeah.
Because they've always traveled to
Right.
Norman.
Right. So,
And everybody's stoked.
Yeah,
You know,
it's-
everybody
it's
that's
a
got
big
restaurants on 11th Street, they are stoked.
crowd's
up
going to
for
be
it.
coming in, man.
Yeah.
It's it's going to be. I know they're staging parking over at the fairgrounds and doing shuttling, and it's going to be big.
Yeah.
You guys are doing some stuff with Philip as well?
Which
Over
one?
at,
Philip?
the
No,
Wolf
at
and
Wolf.
Chicken?
No, so we're not. But he's going to be smoking chickens and stuff. I think out in front of his place.
using Hasty Bakes?
No, I think he's got a big offset.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if I remember right. I know he's used the big offset before. I don't know who's in it. Philip Phillips. Yeah, no, he. I saw him a couple months ago. And he's mentioned that they're doing some big thing for it. But I think they're doing like half chickens or something.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of barbecue that weekend for sure. But yeah, our tailgate spot is pretty primo. It's right outside the front gate.
Yep.
So we'll have the big smoke wagon out there cooking up small bites and cold beers and with TVs on and music blasting. And
And you
it's
guys
gonna
just
be fun.
give everything away.
yeah, so this one will be a little different. I mean, it's I don't want to say it's private party, but it's going to be a little bit kind of more for the community around here. Like, you know, so. But Hasty Bake Grill, folks, you come knock on the door, you know who we are.
Yeah.
If for those of you who are watching, like there's not that many of you, come out and hang out. But yeah, normally at a tailgate, like we just put out a bunch of small bites and food, and people come hang out. And I mean, the idea for us from a marketing perspective is you taste the food off a Hasty Bake, you're hooked, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
normally it's like I can't make anything like this at home, and I'm like I can tell you why.
Yeah.
So it's a good introduction to who we are as a company, and truthfully, like there's a lifestyle, and Ken, you know, this is a lifestyle around outdoor cooking and grilling and backyard cooking, that kind of thing. And then when you bring in the Hasty Bake side of stuff, that lifestyle is even amplified, you know, a little bit more because I don't know anybody who buys it. I take that back. There's probably a handful of people, but for the most part, no one buys a Hasty Bake, and that doesn't become part of their identity. You know, like it's always it's never like, oh yeah, I got one of those. It's like, no, let me tell you about mine or about my grandpa's or whatever it is. So it's a lot of fun. What else? Anything else going on before we dive into?
I think that's it. I mean, you know.
I mean, nothing else.
Yeah,
Scratch and
nothing
Dent
else.
wrapped up.
Yes.
We're getting grills out to folks. You guys have been incredibly patient. Largest sale ever to date.
Yeah.
So we're going to move hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of grills out of
Yeah.
this place.
How'd you do online?
Online was great. National stuff is, I mean, just boomed over the last couple of years, which is really exciting.
yeah.
We've got a superior product.
You do, and it helps too that you know the market is becoming more sensitive to American-made products and more sensitive to quality. And I think what, in my mind, there's probably a million different determiners, but when you saw a supply chain breakdown like we did during COVID, I think it really made people aware of like, oh, there's something to having something made here
Correct.
and like being able to fix things. And so we're not going to complain about, you know, the mind shift change that's happened, you know, for a lot of that kind of stuff. So I think what happens nationally is as the barbecue scene nationally has elevated, people are getting out of feeling like they can go buy a $150 cooker in the backyard and they can cook the best thing ever. Like they know that's going to be their intro cooker, and then they go out and they see these folks, the Matt Pittmans of the world, and all these guys who are in videos and online and all over the place, and they realize like, oh, they're using these high-end cookers. Like maybe there's a reason they're using it. So.
Yeah.
It has not hurt. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Like we've been exposed to a brand new audience of people that we're very happy to cater to, and also for them to jump in and learn and be part of the community. Because that's what inspires creativity in us.
For sure.
Is having new people come in that we've never met, and all of a sudden we're like, hey, do you see what this guy did? Like I've never seen anyone do that before.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. It's a good learning curve for us too. For sure.
Grant would be so proud of what you guys have done with all this.
Man,
He really would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
He didn't get it the last 5 years he was around, what was
Right.
kind of going on in the background. But
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
he would be so proud, just ecstatic.
Yeah, it's I think his goal, when you read his books and his writings, unfortunately never met him, but we obviously know a bunch of guys who knew him. His whole thing was he just wanted to get really good backyard barbecue into people's hands. So when you can expand that outside of Tulsa, obviously he loved Tulsa, and
Right.
Tulsa's our home, and we do a lot here. But when you can expand that outside of Tulsa and introduce them to stuff that's not what they're used to, that's what's fun, man.
Yeah.
And the call out too for us that's just such a fun badge of honor to wear is the fact that we were the first.
Yeah.
And that there's a lot that goes into that, and you can have a conversation with people, and as soon as you tell them that, like, no, we're kind of the pioneers of what backyard barbecue is. They're like, oh, really? I had no idea. And then there's that nostalgia that kind of comes like with realizing, oh wow, all of this stuff kind of came out of the inspiration of that one guy. So pretty neat for sure. Well, hey, like you said, we're excited to sit down tonight with Ken Schafer.
Yes.
Ken has been a staple, not just in the Tulsa community for a long time, but in the Hasty Bake community for a long time. Well before even Zach and I had dove into it, had done classes and been serving food off of them and had networked and knew all these guys. So it's an honor for us to sit down with you, man,
Yes.
and
Thanks.
be able to share a little bit of your story with the grill community and the Hasty Bake community at large. So we're streaming on Grill Community and also on Hasty Bake and Tulsa Grill Store, and we try to get it out there. But it's important to us to sit down with people that we feel like are important in not just in Tulsa, but in the Hasty Bake community, and have something to say and have some ideas. So it's a good time for you to be here, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
For sure.
Cool.
Why don't you give us just a little bit of background of how you kind of got started in cooking in general, and then we'll kind of migrate into restaurants and all that.
Well, I was raised in South Florida,
Okay.
and my dad went to TU and spent some time with Grant back in the 50s.
Right.
Okay.
And that when he graduated, he got a fellowship to the Mellon Institute, and they sent him to South Florida.
Right.
And then I came along, and that we had a Hasty Bake. And that when...
Did your dad get it from Grant, or was
Oh, yeah.
it just okay?
Oh, yeah. That he helped him with a few marketing things, but more than anything, they were more like drinking and card playing buddies.
I feel like Grant
They
had a
played-
few of those.
Yes, and dominoes was their big game. And so they would tootle up to Grand Lake. My mom wouldn't see him for, like 3 days at a time, and he'd come rolling home. But after we moved down to Florida, that we'd cook outside.
Yeah.
All the time, bratwurst, kielbasa's, things of that nature.
Yeah.
And so everybody in the neighborhood would see this cooker out in the the front porch, and all the kids would gather around for like within a year or two, like we had semi-annual parties that where there would be people everywhere, 40, 50, 60 people, and we'd all buns and mustard and all kinds of stuff going on. And that's kind of when I first got the kick to it. I always loved the smell of the smoke of it, and that I don't know what it's done for my sinuses since then.
That's right.
We don't like to think that far ahead at this point. To take it a
But
year
at
at a
that
time.
point, like chicken, steak, pork chops, and sausages
Right.
was all that was going on.
Right.
And but we loved it, and he got great response off of it.
Yeah.
And then
sure.
later on, I moved here to Tulsa to go to TU in high school, and that my stepfather, who was here, he had a Hasty Bake, big fan of Hasty Bake at that time, and that we just, like, it's always been part of our family. And we're talking a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exciting, man. I love how Rarely do I meet someone's like, oh, I went down to the store and bought a grill because I needed a charcoal grill. It's always
Right.
dad had one, grandpa had one, whatever. Like I grew up with it, I was around it. So then it just kind of naturally became part of your character.
Yeah.
You don't see that a lot with gas grills. I've
You
noticed.
do not. I don't.
I feel like I have. I don't know about you, but very few do I find someone who's a hardcore griller and they love their gas grill.
That's only wintertime. I mean, when it's like 15 degrees outside and I feel like a
it's tempting.
steak and I
Right.
press a button and it's 400 degrees in
I mean, that
30
does help.
seconds.
Yeah, that does help.
I don't have to stand out there and.
I'm a cast iron guy during the winter on the stovetop.
Are you?
Oven it
Nice.
and cast iron it. I feel like, or I'll take my little Hasty Bake Ranger, and I'll put it on a little wheelie cart and I'll bring it like right up by the front door or the back door.
back door.
So I just step out, flip the steak, step back in.
There you go.
Nice.
We installed heaters on our back patio a couple of years ago, and that extended the season.
Makes a
There
big
you go.
difference,
Made a
doesn't
huge
it?
difference. Yeah, for sure. Now you actually want to be outside. Like I don't mind being out there bundled up.
Right.
I don't want to be out there bundled up and still cold.
Right.
Well, when you got kids and dogs and all kinds of stuff, and all that stuff is all going, it's all perpetual, and
Yeah.
they want to eat. And
Right. For sure. Yeah, we do a lot of chicken nuggets, I think, during the
That's correct. Yeah.
I love it. So, okay, so you had the background, growing up that background. What made you jump from, hey, we have these backyard barbecues, into, I think I want to do this for a career?
well, it was kind of a decision that I'd made when I had left DoubleTree after a 9 years stint with them, transforming Omni hotels into DoubleTrees in their food and beverage department. That
And that was, did you go to college for that and move on, or how did you fall into that?
Started out geology,
Okay.
then went into marketing,
Yep.
and finished off with that. And then the people from DoubleTree, I was working at Chisholm's at the Tulsa Hilton. I don't even know if you guys
Yeah.
are old enough to
Oh,
remember
yeah, I
Chisholm's.
remember Chisholm's.
And that I was just the backdoor guy. They were having problems internally, and I kind of worked with one of the owners of that to help them kind of get that straightened out. And like 2 days later, they made me the manager.
Wow.
In the meantime, they were building the DoubleTree at Warren Place. That'll age me really
Yeah.
well. And that the food and beverage director there, his name was Marty Miles, and we just built a really great relationship. And again, at that point, I was like running the place, but it wasn't worth the effort. Like there's so much stuff that goes on in the bar business,
Yeah.
and I just wasn't a fan of being at work till 3:30 in the morning
Yeah.
and going to work at 3 in the afternoon, and it just wasn't
hard
working out
life.
with my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was some great benefits.
Yeah, oh, sure.
Chisholm's had awesome food. They had like 3-inch steaks that they would fix on this open grill, kind of a Santa Maria type thing that they
Right.
had back there. And it was a lot of fun to work there, granted, but they made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and before I knew it, I was like on a plane, like every weekend, for 3 or 4 days, and then coming home on the weekends. It wasn't working out with my marriage and so forth.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I, decided to, cash out my 401k, give them notice, and that was downtown thinking about going back, get a master's degree at, then it was TJC.
Yeah.
And there was a little restaurant at 708 South Boston called the Boston Deli. And I'd go in there every day at lunch and get like a $3 sub sandwich and talk to the lady there and, oh, how was business today? And, oh, we had like 15, maybe 18 people. And I said, oh, that's great. And she had her kid with her in a little
Right.
Yeah.
bassinet. And she did it all by herself. And finally I went in there, I said, you need to sell this business to me. I don't know what made me say that,
Yeah.
but I just knew I could, amp it up pretty quickly.
Right.
And she was doing $75 a day in
Oh
business.
my gosh.
And she was at 708 South Boston.
Yeah.
And there was only 6 other restaurants in all of downtown at that time.
Yeah.
And I made her an offer. They accepted it. Went in, tore all the Larry Bird and lobster traps out of the place and kind of freshened it up a little bit. And threw a couple of Hasty Bakes outside, a couple
Right.
of gourmets.
Yeah.
And started preparing the food outside in the morning. And that before I knew it, that the name brand people of Tulsa, the Williams, the Schustermans, the
Yeah.
Zeros, it just goes on and on and on. They were coming over and they were like either they were a chain smoker, they liked to drink during the day, they didn't,
Right.
they wanted a place on the DL to get away from,
Right.
and they'd come over and they'd hang out and chain smoke, and I'd hold beer for them back in the refrigerator and But within like 30 days, we were doing $1,000 a day.
Wow.
Wow.
And so it, like we really bumped it up quick and had delivery. We were in like 12 snack shops downtown.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. It was really challenging. Had a couple of good support people and some other people that were helping us with delivery. But I knew that that wasn't really what I wanted to do with sandwich. Even though my golf game was excellent then, I mean, I was out of there by 2:30 in the afternoon.
Right.
I was
Right.
teeing up at like 3:30, and get home at 7 in time to fix dinner or,
Right.
or run an errand or two, and then back after it again the next morning. But the location at 61st and Sheridan came up where we're currently at now. And
What year was that?
93
Okay.
Okay.
years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I knew that I had all this experience from dealing with so many different chefs in corporate DoubleTree that, like I had a thing for French food. We traveled, my wife and I traveled to Santa Fe pretty regularly. Loved the cuisine there.
Yeah.
Met several people, a gentleman by the name of Mark Miller, who's a classically trained chef, and he's just a ninja cook. And he's a friend of Dean Bearings
Yeah.
as well. And that, but we had, I'd learned so much from these people over these years. I loved the Asian and mixing these flavor profiles. And I wanted to do a dinner menu. So after
Yeah.
we were there for 6 or 8 months, I decided, well, I can cook all this stuff. I can do this.
Yeah.
And I've seen it done. And
Sure.
I've played around with it a little bit. And so we had a great review from then Suzanne Holloway, who was the food
Okay.
reviewer.
Right.
And this was like 2 months after we had got the other one open, and it was way overwhelming. I mean, after we got this unbelievable review, everything was POS at the counter. Our wine and beer was being sold in styrofoam cups. Didn't have the money to buy glassware.
Right.
Everything was disposable. People
Right.
ordered at the counter. You couldn't believe all the people that were coming in there. It was amazing. I mean, it seemed like we were busier then than we are nowadays.
Yeah.
But it just caught on. Everybody liked the that concept that we had, and everything was super fresh. And so we just moved on from that and kind of settled into knew that I wasn't going to be able to last very long. So I lasted like 6 or 7 years cooking.
Yeah.
And again, that I was kind of in the DoubleTree syndrome, to where I was going to work at like 7 o'clock in the morning, getting home at 10:30 or 11 o'clock at
Right.
night.
Right.
And exhausting.
Yeah.
And Adam can attest to that.
Yes.
And that just learned that I knew that I needed to find people that I could work with that could control the cooking side of it, so I
Sure.
could just go back to designing and coming up with creations and
Yeah.
so forth at the same time.
Right.
So the profiles are like Southwest and Asian and French. So whether it's braising or it's just flat out quick grilling,
Right.
and then finishing it in the oven, or like there's so many different techniques that I'd learned over the years, and so that's what we base everything on now. And a lot of
That's
it,
cool.
I'd say 75% of our menu is like Hasty Bake derived.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'll have people from out of town or people who are kind of looking for new restaurants. They'll be like, hey, where should I check out? And I'll say, hey, head on down to Boston Deli, and they're like, I don't really want sandwiches. I'm like, nah, it's not a sandwich thing. And
Yeah.
they're like, what is it? And I'm like, well, it's kind.
You should just go.
You should pull up a menu real quick.
Right.
Look at, because there's just so many different offerings that you guys have, and not in like a Cheesecake Factory way, not in like
Right.
they just menu goes on forever. But it's just so creative that I've always felt like it's one of those places. Like anytime I had a craving, I could probably find something there.
For sure.
Which is neat, but it's never been like lowbrow, like, oh, I just have a craving for a chicken sandwich. It's always like, do you want one of the best chicken sandwiches you're ever going to have?
Correct.
So we're not saying that to pat you on the back as much as we are. It's just it's very fun,
But
and
that
what's
chicken sandwich is outstanding.
it's out freaking
It's
outstanding.
outstanding.
It's neat though because we'll get stuck on something, and then I'll talk to somebody. They're like, "Well, have you had this?" I'm like, "No." Dang it!
Yeah.
I got to go down and try that, and then it's the new favorite for a while. So
Right.
it's fun, man.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Is it?
Oh yeah, I'll find something. I'll be in a groove on
Like
it. for
fixated on it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for weeks,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, it's done.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I may go back like a month later, or 2 months later, or something like that, and go, God, it's just as good as it
Yeah.
was.
For sure.
And I may load back up and start it all over
There
again.
you go.
You have a fun flair on it too that I've appreciated, and I know you kind of we joke and not so joke about not being a chef, and I guess I should probably ask you what your definition of a chef is, because I feel like that's that's a floating, moving target for some people.
Well, not to offend anybody that I've worked with, because I've literally had, like lots of chefs work for me here in Tulsa.
Yeah.
And I've consulted with a lot of chefs here in Tulsa and around the country. But that my impression of a true chef is classically trained. But if I have people all the time that apply and I talk to and ask them, like, well, what's your favorite mother sauce?
Right.
They'll go, what? And I'm
Right.
going, mother sauce.
Yeah.
And then immediately I catch them off guard.
Right.
And they're like, well, there's 7 of them.
Yeah.
And that, so that if they don't know those, they still may have, the chomps for it and
Yeah.
stuff. Because I tell you what, when you've got 20 tickets hanging, each ticket's got like 6 or 7 or 8 orders on it.
Right.
And it's to assimilate all that information.
Yeah.
That's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, so there's something to be said for all that.
Yeah.
And then they do everything else, the purchasing, they,
Sure.
like P&Ls and all this other stuff that goes along with it. So, but, I've got some very talented people that work for me right now. I call them chef because they've earned their chops. Neither
Sure.
one of them are classically trained,
Right.
but they have done so much shit all over the
Right.
place.
Right.
Right.
I didn't mean to drop the S-bomb.
Oh, we
Is
drop
that
it
okay?
all. We
Yeah.
drop
We're
it all
all
the
right?
time. Yeah,
Hey,
you're
okay.
good.
Yeah.
You're good. Yeah, man, I'm right there with you on that. I feel like in my mind, there's a couple different tiers. There's the ones who, from an education standpoint, have been there, and then they've paid their dues. And then there's a lot of people who would never call themselves chef, and I'm like, you're every bit,
Correct.
of what that is. So it's kind of
Yes,
fun.
That's true.
Yes.
But I feel like the cuisine that you guys have at your place is in a lot of in some ways not so much at all, but in a lot of ways pretty chefy. Like you can take some stuff
is.
that's
Yeah.
elevated into kind of a chefiness without being like just super high end
Right.
tweezer food. But it could be like a chicken sandwich. Well, that could be a real lowbrow dish, but chicken sandwich is pretty chefy for
My
you.
staff gets on me for that because they think I take it too far. It's like where there's some unbelievable restaurants that are in Tulsa,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they've got people that are back there that have got a tweezer in their hand,
Right.
And they have Hasty Bakes as well, but they don't
Yeah.
cook on Hasty Bakes. They're in
Right.
a classic type place, and they'll look to finish a plate and get it out up into the window. It's 2-3 minutes.
Right.
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 And like I want another table sitting there. I want somebody else sitting at
Right.
that table
Right.
in
Yeah.
another 18 minutes. So let's
Right.
feed them. Let's
Yeah.
get them out of here.
I mean, it's different strokes for for different people.
Sure.
Every now and then, I feel like tweezer food's kind of fun. It's
Exactly.
nothing
Yeah.
I chase after all the time. Like if I'm in a new place, like rarely do I'm like, hey, I should go try to find something that's not going to fill me and make me want to go to Whataburger.
Right.
later on.
Right.
Well, that's the truth about that is that it's more like samples or small plates or
Right.
tapas type things.
Right.
And those are some of my favorite restaurants because
For
I
sure.
can order 8 or 10 things off
Right.
of
Sure.
the menu
Yeah.
Yeah.
and have a lot of different flavors going on in my mouth at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. There's Amelia's has that brasserie next door to them.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of my wife's and I's favorite places
yeah.
to go like before a concert or something, because we'll go get 8 or 10 appetizers. They're not huge and they're not overly expensive, and it's basically just tapas. We'll go through a bottle or two of wine and 8 or 10 different plates, and we each get 2 or 3 bites of something. And sometimes I want that, and then sometimes I want to dig into a gigantic chicken sandwich
That's
with
right.
a couple sides and be full as a tick on the way out. It
Yeah.
just depends on what you want. So it's fun, man. If you mentioned that, we might as well jump into, if you are eating out in Tulsa, where are your go-tos?
Man, I like hole in the walls. So I find Hispanic places
Yeah.
that are way out in East Tulsa, 145th, 21st,
Yeah.
way out there.
That's where I go when I want
And
Mexican, is that area
and
right
that, and that I look for them and that they barely speak English.
Yeah.
Yes.
And their menu that they can't explain it to you because they can't speak English.
Right.
Right.
And some of their menus are written in Spanish.
Yeah.
And so that those are my favorite places. I like smaller places. Gamble's is coming on strong.
Yeah.
Yes.
And their pastas, it's really good. And I enjoy just the smaller places like that because I like to support them.
Sure. Yeah.
Because these other people, shoot, I think that there's maybe only 2 restaurant owners in town, maybe 3 that own 100% of their operation.
Yeah.
Right.
All of them have got investors.
Yeah.
And they're all being dictated on what they have to do through their investors.
For sure.
So and then they have to be profitable or you're out the door.
Right.
Done.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the smaller places that
Yeah.
they got kids and
Right.
they're all in schools here in Tulsa. And
Right.
So those are my favorite.
And
I'm not going to mention any names
Sure.
because I don't want to.
No.
Because I know just about all the owners from
Right.
the ORA.
Right.
I love-
and that there are some great places here in Tulsa.
I love was in Mexico several years ago, but I had some friends with me that had never been, and we went to a place to eat, just a regular restaurant there in Mexico, and they brought out the salsa, and I just dove into it, and so a friend of mine did it, and he was like, what is this? And I'm like, that's real salsa. That's not what you're used to in Oklahoma. That's a real salsa. That's way different. But I love some of those restaurants over in that area. They're outstanding.
Well, and to that point too, a lot of these owner operators were, the small shops like you're talking about, they can afford to take some creative license, and have a little bit of fun and pivot on the fly with things, where they don't have someone going like, no, that salsa is not going to sell to, all these people. They can be like, no, I'm going to try something and have some fun with it. And I love that. I love it when Gambles or places like that go like, hey, we got this, special thing on the menu. And I'm like, that is off the wall. Like, we have to run down and try it.
Yeah.
Right.
Just for fun. Like, Flo's down here does a really fun job of like just popping up with some new stuff. And we're like, hey, would have never thought to do that. But it's killer. It's outstanding.
When they first opened their double cheeseburger, I thought it was like right up there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like top 3 in Tulsa.
Right. Have you been to the smokehouse here that they just opened up behind the
I
Mother
haven't
Road?
tried it yet. What are they cooking on? They have a pit?
So I don't know if the pit is on site or it's over across the street at the other place, but it's clearly smoked, and it's smoked well. It's not on Hasty Bake, I tell you that, but
Not yet.
not yet. No, but it's outstanding.
It is
and
outstanding.
it's pretty fun because they have a bunch of different menu creations, and there's a little bit of Hispanic inspiration. I mean, and their burgers have some of that too,
Right.
behind them.
Exactly.
So from the smokehouse side of stuff, like they'll have like smoked birria tacos, and then they'll turn them into like quesadilla, fried cheese. I just don't. If you're on a health kick, like that's not the place you want.
No, it's not the place to.
But their burger
lose
place
weight.
isn't either.
Yeah.
So tell me, both of you, what's your favorite place to eat in Tulsa?
It really depends. This is outstanding. So that's some of the stuff that they're.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was
Right.
just showing him some of those.
If you cover anything in gravy enough, like it's going to look outstanding.
Correct. Correct. For me, I really I love, kind of like what you're saying. I love trying new places and not necessarily like name brand.
Sure.
Not name brand's not the right way to say it, but a commercial,
Right.
a commercial type thing. You and I get go do some cool things. Being here, we'll get a phone call and run down and try something
New that pops up.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, there's been a couple of impressive. I mean, Gambles is always, Hunter's a good buddy of ours, so we've always been a big supporter of everything he's doing. He's opening this new place out in Stillwater.
Yeah, he is.
The pictures he has been sending me incessantly, because that's what we do. We send each other pictures and memes and Instagram reels back and forth.
Of food.
You think you and I are bad? You wait until Hunter and I get on a real kick, and I'll wake up in the morning. I'm like, you sent me 87 videos
you
last
It's
go.
night.
nonstop, isn't
Yeah.
it?
It's a beautiful thing. But the new place, I think it's called EM, is going to be outstanding. But yeah, his pasteria is killer. Hi, choking you on the
you.
cord there.
Appreciate that.
Nomad Barbecue Deli's been really really
They've been
impressive.
good.
I mean, you come from a cool dynasty of having some Burnco background and some Bill and Roots background, and like they know how to compile a good menu and execute. So
Yeah.
that's been fun. I'm trying to think what else. Unfortunately, when you're on the road a lot, you come
Yeah.
back and you're like, someone opened a new what?
Yeah.
It's almost weekly, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're really lucky in Tulsa to have a restaurant scene that is pretty vibrant. And I mean, unfortunately, you'll have a bunch of stuff pop up and a lot of stuff fail, and then other stuff pop up. So it changes all the time. You get some really good stalwarts like yourself that stick around. Saw today Jane's is shutting down. They just announced that a few
Saw
hours
that
ago.
too.
Yeah.
So I mean, and something new will pop up in the place. So it's neat to kind of watch new stuff. The one place I have not tried yet that I really want to is Freya. Justin Thompson's is good.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Is it?
You'll like it.
Yeah, I've heard
will like
there's
it.
some really outstanding, very off the wall some stuff, but some really outstanding stuff.
There's like 10 ingredients that go into that type of food.
Right.
That type of food. And all of them kind of taste the same.
Okay.
But they're displayed differently.
Okay.
Right.
And but the presentation on the food,
Yeah.
the service is, like it's all top notch. It's, got JT, stamped all over it.
Right. Yeah, he done. He's one of those, guys like, and why I'm blank. Who owns Mahogany's and Neighborhood Jam? What's his name?
Hal Smith.
Hal
Group?
Smith. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those, like, you put Hal Smith behind something, like, it's really hard to fail because there's just such a high level of expectation. Justin Thompson does the same thing. Great stuff there. Some tweezer food, depending on the concept.
Yeah.
But always really good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we're lucky in Tulsa to be a very restaurant driven.
There's 3,000 restaurants in Tulsa.
Is there really?
Tulsa
Is there
County.
really?
3,000.
Wow.
Kansas City's 3 times the size, and they only have 4,100.
So it makes me wonder: is it a chain restaurant thing?
It used to be. They used to come in that the different larger groups used to come in, Pepsi and so forth, that owned
Right.
Taco Bell and so forth,
Right.
that they would come in, they'd drop new concepts in Tulsa to see how they'd float, and then
Right.
they would
Yeah.
know, is it going to work in the Midwest? Is it going to work
Yeah.
elsewhere?
Yeah.
And that's not happening anymore. I mean, they've got their marketing
Right.
pinpoint down so
Right.
much and their menus down so much, they just, we're going to go in
just
South
drop-
Dakota
yeah.
somewhere. They just
Right.
open them.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and Tulsa is it loves local places. It also
Yes.
loves some really bad chain places like Taco
Yes.
Bueno and other places. But it really likes those locals, and it makes me wonder, with say Kansas City, is that there's just so many big chain places in Kansas City to feed the volume that they don't need the number of mom and pop shops to open up because
It's kind of a shame, too.
it's a volume
for
thing.
sure.
Yeah. We're very, very lucky.
3,000. I don't know what number I had in my head, but it
It wasn't
not
3,000, though.
You would think
No.
maybe 1,500.
I was thinking
Yeah,
like 12 to
like-
15 is probably
Yeah.
feels
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know,
Yeah.
man. Different. Hey, have you eaten at Hunter's other place, the Jewish deli over here?
I haven't yet. I haven't had a chance. I just never
like you're
have.
working during the day
I'm
or
always
something,
working
right?
during the day, or I'm with a client or something
Right.
like that, planning something for him. But that, I've heard great reviews on his
Yeah.
pastrami, even though I must say that, they're making this big deal out of pastrami. We've been doing it and steaming it
Oh, yeah. I
know.
for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I think we have got really good pastrami at the restaurant.
Man, I'm a pastrami.
I can
nut.
confirm.
And I don't even care. Like, I know good pastrami, but I'm good with fine pastrami.
Right.
I love pastrami in general.
So do you like to do it with venison, duck?
So I've done
Pheasant?
duck, never done pheasant. I've done venison. I thought venison was okay. I like my pastrami a little fattier. So like when
Right.
I'm making it at home, I
gotta
do
have-
brisket points, to kind of get that.
Yep.
I've done duck pastrami is very good. I've done Axis deer pastrami was surprisingly good. It was one of those like we had them lying around in the back of the freezer. We're like, hey, what are we
Right.
gonna do? Well, let's cure them and see what happens. Yeah, Hunter's is great. It's definitely different. It's thick cut. It's kind of more of a barbecue inspired pastrami. Truthfully, I'm a thin cut pastrami guy. Like I like it shaved. But the flavor on his is great. But I mean, the cool thing about his sandwiches are, and the Jewish community has embraced this place like crazy. Which
Oh,
is
yeah,
neat.
they have.
So when he jumped into it, he contacted. I'm not part of the Jewish community, but I'm assuming some notable rabbi who's one of the leaders of the Jewish community, and he advised them on a bunch of different stuff for kosher, and like this is how they're going to take it, and this is kind of how you want to prepare. So so apparently the community's embraced that really well. But it's one of those places like you get a sandwich and you open it up and you're like, I don't even know how to attack it.
Right.
There's just so much going on, and it's delicious.
Did you get the full size one? The
I made that mistake.
10
I
ounce
made
or
that
whatever
mistake
it was?
once. It's hefty. I think it's more than that. I want to say
it was like 10 or 12 ounces.
I want
of
to say it
meat?
might be like 16. It's ridiculous. Well, the funny thing is, and I'll tell you right now, if you have blood pressure problems, never go on the Tulsa Restaurant Review Facebook page. But the funny thing is, you'll get people on there and they're like, "I'm never in my life would I pay $28 for a pastrami sandwich." I'm like, "Well, it's a pound,
Yeah.
and you're not going to finish it probably in 2 sittings. So let's just like compare apples to apples here, and not, I go to Subway and like, shut up, stop it."
Exactly.
Right.
Funny.
Oh, that's great. All right, man. Where do we want to go? Because I have 1,000 questions on here
Yeah.
we can do. Here's what I want to do. What inspires you when you're doing dish creation? Because you have a really solid set menu at Boston, and then you have some cool stuff that pops up. What inspires you when you're doing those things to pull from maybe a different culinary experience or a different, regional genre? Like, instead of just saying, hey, we're going to do a riff on this, like some of the stuff you come up with is, I don't want to say off the wall, but it's one of those like I never would have thought that I'd see that on the menu.
Right.
What draws
Kind of
that?
weird that we just do what when I collaborate with the chefs on Monday or Tuesday, we come in, we always have a meeting, and that we talk about different things that they've seen this weekend or what they've done and so forth. We just came off of a roll on like traveling around. We did like a lasagna dish
Right.
Yeah.
just last month, and then before that we did some stuff from Lebanon, and before that we had done some. I mean, we just move it around so much. We had done some Francis Mallman stuff.
I love
So
that. That was a good menu.
that was an excellent menu, and that so we figure out how we're going to work it in through a Hasty Bake.
Yeah.
And so we have to play with it a little bit to where we get it just right. Sometimes the first weeks we don't nail it to where I'm our worst critic.
Right.
And
Sure.
so then
You need to be.
by the second week it is like totally right on point.
Right.
And we've kind of got right now that we're doing something that's kind of NOLA inspired. So it's a sirloin, crawfish étouffée over the top of it. And that's shrimp étouffée, and we're doing these little beignets that are more savory than they are sweet, and
Right.
so those
Now we're
have
talking.
crawfish in them, and very interesting,
Like a stuffed
different.
beignet?
Right, but we're doing them not like a fritter where it's a round ball. It's more like shaped like a beignet that you would get.
Okay.
And
Are you blackening the steak, or how are you cooking it?
That's a good question. I can't remember. I'm already working on next month's
Right.
stuff.
We're way
I'm
past
sorry.
this at this
I'm
point.
sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's funny.
I don't have a young memory like you guys.
Yeah. No, it sounds delicious, man.
Yeah.
Now I want that.
I know.
Now I don't. It's anytime a new NOLA inspired restaurant pops up, I always have to try it because I guess I'm a nut for that.
Do you guys eat at NOLA?
Over
Over on Cherry
here?
Street?
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, man, it's so good.
Yeah.
There's, and I learned this a few years ago because Chris West is a good buddy of mine. He used to own La Sal's. They still have the farm, and they do the farmer's market and the seasonings and the honey and the hot sauce. I mean, crazy good stuff.
Yes.
And Chris, we'll have Chris back here on the podcast at some point. He was on our other one, and that was always a favorite. But he's a NOLA transplant from Katrina, and had some outstanding dishes that would come through La Sal's. And it's amazing. I've realized how many NOLA transplants we have in Tulsa, and a lot of them are
There's a lot of
displaced from Hurricane Katrina.
Exactly.
And they all had some kind of tie up here, and they came up, and they were able to bring some really cool
Yeah.
inspired cuisines up. So it's neat to be able to go around town and actually get that fix.
30 years ago, all we had was the Cajun boiling pot. It was on
Right.
Memorial, like 12th or something like that. And they'd have a table about this big. They'd lay out some paper, and they'd come out with a bucket, just chunk some stuff on the tabletop,
And that was it?
And hand you some paper napkins and give you a Coors Light, and
Yeah.
you're off to the races.
I love
That's
it.
all we had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
Louisiana when it was open years and years ago too.
I don't
It was
remember
at-
that one.
That was at 18th in Boston.
Okay.
Okay.
Down on the corner there where they're
It was
doing
where
all
that
the new-
big red brick building is.
Okay.
That it was across from where Adam
Okay.
was.
Right.
Yeah.
And D'Alessandro's.
Gotcha. Good deal. Flag that Trey Hammer question. I want to come back to that.
Yeah,
Trey,
I've got
I
it.
want to answer that question for you for sure. That's a good one about your ribs. We want all your recipes. Is basically
Yes.
what people are asking for at this point. Hey, and I had a conversation with Adam Green from Max Barbecue earlier today about volume in restaurants, and about how there's kind of, I'm sure I'm oversimplifying this, but there's kind of two different methodologies here. It's you can do craft, but when you do craft, you're limited on volume. So I think about like the craft barbecue places in Texas or something like, they're going to sell out by 1 or 2 o'clock because you
Right.
can only do so much when you're doing that. And a lot of times it's owner operator, and that's all they want to do is like, and then you can, swing the far the other way. And it's like, I just want to flip tables as fast as humanly possible. There are a lot of cookers out there that do more volume than Hasty Bakes. So what has made you stick to that in your restaurants?
Well, Adam kind of rules and so many people have come through him to go on to, their own successes. But, you drop 10 cookers in the middle of a room and ventilate it. I mean, there's a lot of production that you can kick out.
Sure.
I think
true.
we're the first people that here in Tulsa 30 years ago that, we didn't feel bad about running out of stuff.
Yeah.
And they would
Right.
people get so mad at us, and we're going, hey, we're out.
Yeah. Come back tomorrow.
And we explained to them, just like you said, it's
Yeah.
craft stuff. This is
Right.
handmade. It's
Right.
babied. We
Right.
spend a lot of time with it. And if we're out, we're out. And
Right.
guess
I
what?
got a turkey sandwich for you.
If I have something left over, that means I'm losing money.
Right.
Yeah.
So the game plan is to find that sweet spot where, and it takes a little
Sure.
while to get to that sweet spot to where you don't have additional product left over.
Right.
You can't really warm up ribs.
Right.
Can't warm
Oh,
up
not at
brisket
all.
unless you turn it chopped.
Right.
Right.
And pork's the same way, unless you undercook it.
Right.
So that I think that there's some really awesome people out there that like are risk takers.
Yeah.
Sure.
That do that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
That's why we incorporated more oven work and stovetop work, and added in the different stuff, the French and so forth, and to
Yeah.
kind of pair up with it. I just knew that at that point where I was, even though we've got a whole ton of Hasty Bakes down there to cook on,
Yeah. Sure.
that we only keep like 3 of them busy.
That was going to be my next question. Is
Yeah.
how many do you have fired up at a time?
3 max.
Yeah.
And like during Thanksgiving, like we may drop 8 or 10, 12 out.
Right.
But that
Just to get turkeys or hams or whatever done.
oh man,
Yeah.
that has grown so much.
I bet it has.
Yeah.
How many turkeys do you do a year for Thanksgiving?
I can't really tell you.
Fair.
I mean, I could,
Right.
Yeah.
but I can't.
Right.
So
But a
that
lot.
It
keeps you busy a long time.
a lot. It's
Yeah.
2 trailers of boxes of 4 of turkeys.
They drop a reefer for you.
that have it is that.
Yeah.
And that
Lot of
we
dead
actually
birds.
we have 6 people opening and taking out giblets for 12 hours.
Doesn't that sound exciting?
So- oh, it's
What did you do today?
It's the
Giblets.
worst.
A lot of
it's the worst experience. But I tell you, all that stuff we needed all to make the gravy
Sure.
and so forth.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can tell you that we made 55 gallons of gravy this last Thanksgiving.
55 gallons.
55 gallons of gravy.
What's the average? Like if someone gets a turkey or something, are you sending them home with like a pint of gravy, or are they?
We
is that
used
what they
to.
roll?
We used to give a pint of gravy, and
Right.
we gave stuffing.
Right.
And then I started looking at some of these online places that are getting like $90 for turkey by itself.
Yeah.
Just
Freaking
the-
gold
And
belly.
I said that's over with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like we quit doing the stuffing and the gravy. You want the gravy?
Right.
Yeah.
$6 or $8, whatever it is
Sure.
we
Yeah.
charge for it, and the stuffing's the same way.
Right.
Right.
But
55
Our-
gallons.
Hasty Baked turkey,
Yeah.
it would be
Outstanding.
just like you did it at your house,
Right.
Right.
and it just turns out unbelievable. That's what we eat at our house.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
we don't make it at the house.
So go home,
And you-
fire up your Hasty Bake,
Ah.
then go pick up
And then just
the
put it on
turkey
there
and
to
just put it in there. And then
Telling
And when
you.
the guests show up,
That's
we're
right.
just pulling
Pro
it
tip,
out.
pull it
There
up.
you go.
Right. I've never done anything like
Yeah.
that before. That brings up an interesting point too. I have a good buddy of mine who we turned him on a Hasty Bake about 3 or 4 years ago. He's ate up with it now. He's bought like 10 cookers from us, and he loves to call the food that comes off at backyard barbecue, like everything. He's like, man, that's the best backyard eating rib you've ever had, because there's something about the flavor off a Hasty Bake that tastes more homemade, in my opinion, than anywhere else. And that's why I think you have a draw to like Meyer's Place, Burnco.
Right.
Is it's not the most pristine rib you're ever going to get in your life. It's not the most competition, beautiful, whatever rib. It doesn't check all the boxes as far as like, does it have the, it's a backyard rib. And it's, if you're really good, it's what you're going to make at home,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit better. But it has that inspired, like, I feel like I just made this at home. And there's times where you want to go to a restaurant and you want to eat restaurant food, but it's pretty neat having that kind of flavor where it's just that
Sure.
nostalgia that kind of comes over. So I'm with you on the turkeys. I feel like 100% like that's what you get when you cook something at home. Also, if you're busy for Thanksgiving,
That's right.
give Ken a call and he will make a turkey for you.
That's right.
Personally.
We will.
That's
like,
right.
Menus are going to
or-
break
or
1st
10.
of October. We start
Yeah.
taking orders
First of October.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When do you cut them off?
When we decide.
I
that
was going to
it's
say when the
too
volume
much.
isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year it was too much.
Yeah.
And so we're going to cut off earlier than we did last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Gotta
but
get 'em in early.
It's quite a thing to experience, and the staff works so hard. Oddly enough, I came down with COVID just like the week that we're doing all the production leading up to it.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there with temperature, fever, face wrapped, gloves
Yeah.
on,
right.
over in my own little corner trying to,
Right.
like
They're
Give
spraying
direction.
you with a spray bottle, won't let you
oh
come
my
close.
gosh,
Right.
it was the worst.
Hey, have you thought? No, back.
Yeah, yeah.
5 feet. 5 feet. So I will tell you, it's if you love to cook on the holidays, that's one thing.
Sure.
But sometimes, simple, but we started doing some takeout or some stuff like that for either Christmas Eve or Thanksgiving Eve or whatever it is, like when family's in town. It has transformed the way our holidays go because I love to cook. So like I want the show, for the big holiday meal. Personally, if you don't want the show, like there's good options. But I will tell you, like there's always 4 or 5 meals around holiday time that are not the big show,
Right.
And you still kind of have to show up and show out, and that's a really good use for those too.
For sure.
To just be like, we're just going to pop it in the oven and walk away, and I can worry about cleaning the house or entertaining or refilling drinks, and I don't have to worry about making sure I don't completely destroy the bird.
Yeah.
I told you the story about Dad's microwave bird, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell it in length at another time. But my dad bought a PK against my better. This is years ago. My parents are long gone, and it's still one of my favorite stories to tell about them because I can throw them under the bus and they're not here to say anything. But Dad bought a PK and insisted on doing a turkey, and I was like, all right, here's the deal. It's not that big. Like you need to go get yourself like a 10-pound, 12-pound bird. So of course he calls me. He's like, "Well, I got a 28-pound bird." I'm like, "You are screwed."
Oh my gosh.
And long story short, I heard a little bit from him earlier in the day, and then the next week never heard from him. So I thought, well, maybe they pulled it off. Maybe he spatchcocked it or did halves or whatever. About a week later, I call and I'm like, "Hey, Mom, how'd that bird turn out?" And she goes, "Your dad wants to talk to you about that bird." She puts him on, and he went into the most hilariously descriptive story about. You know how like growing up, you always had grandma always had put the turkey in the old what was the Magna whatever the roasting pan.
Yeah.
Oh
just
yeah, the big black ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like shoving it in and like jumping on it trying to get this. So he did that in the PK, right? And he's got people coming over, and eventually throughout the day he's realizing like this is not going to get done.
Yeah.
And what you or I would do would like we'd start hacking stuff off the bird and like putting it in the oven or basting it or whatever. Dad started shaving it off and putting it on plates, and Mom started microwaving it. And I was like, "So how'd it go?" And she goes, "I don't think they're ever going to come over to the house again." And I said, "Is that a good thing?" She's like, "It might be."
Yeah.
So if you have an experience like that,
Right.
you look up Boston Deli. They're doing turkeys as of 1st of October.
That's right.
What I'm going to follow up on Trey's comment in a second, but I want to lead that into what is your favorite way personally to cook a steak, and what's your favorite steak?
I like cast iron on the Hasty Bake.
Okay.
And I sear it on both sides.
Okay.
And then I'll go ahead and drop some butter and thyme and rosemary in there with it, a couple of garlic bulbs, and just finish it on both sides. I may go ahead and put grill marks on it when it's finished, but I just like all that butter that's in it. Depends on what kind of steak it is too.
Yeah.
Say ribeye.
Ribeye, yeah, it's got to be grilled. It's got to have a
Direct fire grilled?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's got to have a lot of spice on it.
Right.
And a lot of heat. Like to bring all that stuff. Right now we're doing a coffee spice ribeye, and so what we do is we take the whole
Not right now.
the whole lip
I'd
on.
like to right now. Yeah.
The whole lip on. We take the trim off of it. We tie it. Put it on a Hasty Bake for it's about 45, 50 minutes. We take it to about 90 degrees.
Okay.
Heavy smoke on it. Pull it off. Let it bench rest for a little while. And then we'll just put it in the walk-in, chill it, and then we'll cut the steaks off of it, and it goes right onto our char grill that we have. And so it's already got that coffee spice on the outside of it.
Right.
We have a blackening spice that we add to it, but we make this wonderful little avocado salad type thing that goes on top of it.
Directly on top of the steak?
Just right on top of, like a cup of it, just plopped right on top of it.
Interesting.
A couple of grilled limes, squeeze that all over the top of it. But the flavor between the coffee
and
spice,
lime,
the
and
blackened
wow.
spice, and so forth, it just dances in your mouth.
I'm gonna pick your brain on coffee spice because it's one of those like I've always wanted to have a go-to like coffee.
You haven't made one?
Oh, I've made 1,000 of them.
Okay.
But I don't know if I've ever made one where I'm like, this is it.
Have
Like,
you
and
done
I've
one-
made some where I'm like, this is clearly not it.
The trick to it is like 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. and use a high-grade
Oh,
cocoa
shit.
powder.
Yeah.
And so that's going to give you that browning effect.
balances
as long as it balances it all out.
Look at you coming in here, chefy.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
It's a very chef thing to say.
Yeah. So your butter garlic, is that like a fillet thing in your cast iron? Is that kind of where you're?
Oh, yeah.
So
I,
that's how you do your fillets.
Yeah.
about 90% of the time.
Yeah, makes
I got
sense.
one that we do with a rhubarb sauce that goes over the top of it, and then blue cheese crumbles.
You do some fun stuff
Seasoned
with
with
fruit,
cardamom.
man.
A lot of stuff when it's seasonal. We just came off of doing all kinds of desserty type things with peaches.
Right.
I just love peach
Oh, when
season.
it's in
I love
season, man.
corn season. That's what's so great about Oklahoma. We get some wonderful, wonderful product.
Oh, yeah.
But there's since COVID, there's been a shipping thing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's local fruits and veggies have been like a little secret, like back pocket thing of mine, especially with different recipes you're doing at the house. Because if you're not buying them local, and then you buy local, the difference between the two, like when you hit up the local farmers market, or especially like the local farm or the peaches that are in season, the difference between the two is crazy. So you can have someone come over and you serve them something, they're like, "Why is that so good?"
Yeah.
Like, well, I could tell you, but you know what I mean? It's just not dealing with not just canned ingredients, but overly produced ingredients that just don't have the flavor on them. Dude, tomato season, one of my favorite, and I'm not even a huge tomato guy, but when you get a really, really good ripe in season, like homegrown tomato,
Yeah.
like why would you ever eat another tomato again?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's
It's hard to.
That's the kind of thing where someone's like, "I don't like tomatoes." I'm like, "I think you probably do. You just don't know you do because you haven't had one that was actually really good."
Yeah.
You know?
Do you guys have gardens at home?
I do.
I do not. My parents have a big one. But
Did
I
they do
don't, but
tomatoes this year?
I believe so.
You didn't get any then.
No,
I
I don't
didn't
remember.
get any.
Was it a low
Yeah.
tomato season for them?
Yeah, I don't remember.
We got
I
about
felt like that they called me and said, "Do you want any tomatoes?" And I felt like I was like, "I'm not going to do anything with them this week, so no." And
probably
they
fair.
didn't ask
Yeah.
after that.
Salsa.
So yeah.
Oh, that's quick and easy, man.
Yeah.
Salsa. We have I think it's probably about an eighth of an acre garden that my wife is in religiously.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we started out probably 10 years ago. We wanted to do a garden, and we lived on an acre and a half at the time, and made way too big of a garden because it was like, what are we gonna? We didn't even have kids at the time, so it's like, what are we gonna do with all this space? We'll do a big garden, and then ever since then we haven't been able to downsize because I'm always like, if you're gonna do it, just do it. Why plant 2 tomato plants when you have the room to plant 16 of them?
Yeah.
We'll give them away to people. Like, it's not a whole lot more effort to go out there and, prune 16 tomato plants, more than it is 5 or 6. So we've been a pretty big garden thing. So around here, we'll bring a lot of squash in. We'll do a lot of pickles. We had enough tomatoes this year for us. I think we ended up planting 8 plants, but we didn't have a high yield. Do you grow at home?
I used
Tomatoes?
to. I had a
Garden?
20 by 40. Yeah, right. No, I quit growing in college.
Yeah.
But that it's with the vendors that I use here in Tulsa. A lot
Right.
of it's local stuff.
yeah.
It's just as easy for me to
Sure.
do that.
Oh, for sure.
I got tired of putting straw out there all the time
Oh, I don't
and
blame
then
you.
pulling weeds and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and fighting crows and blue jays and
Yeah.
Yeah.
the vermin that lives in my backyard.
Yeah.
My wife uses it so we homeschool our kids, and she uses it as an opportunity for them to get out and
Oh, it's perfect.
and they will go out. I mean, they spend.
Ideal.
I bet you they spend an hour and a half a day in that garden. Where normally, like, you go out for 15, 20 minutes, pluck this, water that, whatever. They
Right.
spend an hour and a half a day tweaking this and moving that, and they'll ask, Mom, how does this grow? And she's like, I don't know. Let's get some seeds and we'll find out. So
Yeah.
they'll pop it out, and then on our property we have tons and tons and tons of wild blackberries. So it's been fun. There's 4 or 5 patches all over our property, and what I'll do is I'll mow like a labyrinth through the blackberries because they grow weird. Like, rarely are they gigantic patch. Like, they'll grow
Right.
4 or 5 here and 4 or 5 across. So I'll mow a labyrinth between the two because my kids are young. So, like, if they lean over a bush, they'll get ticks and everything.
Uh-huh.
So knock the grass down so it's real short. And then for probably 2.5, 3 months out of the year, they'll every single morning go out and they'll get at least 1 gallon bucket of blackberries every single day.
What do you do with them?
So she does a lot of jam. She does a lot of
Right.
syrup. She
Right.
started doing.
I need both of those.
I know. I got you some. We do a little bit more syrup, and we do a lot of what does she call it? She'll do freezer jam because just preserving is just
Super
so
easy.
exhausting. So she'll do
Yeah,
a
it
lot of
is.
freezer jam because you can store a lot of that, and then she'll do a lot of fridge stuff too. So she'll make we'll do deli containers and just gelatin just enough that it kind of turns into kind of a a liquidy preserve, and then we'll give a bunch of that out just because there's so much volume.
You make barbecue sauce out of it?
I've done barbecue sauce. Love doing compote stuff. Love
Yeah.
doing
I
just
love
just pan sauces and stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of.
Boy, it pairs up with pork really
Oh
good.
yeah, it pairs with almost.
And
I don't even
pheasant.
like sweet beef, and it's great on beef if you do the right combination with it. Yeah, that was a real fun thing for us to discover when we started building on this property. We're like, oh my gosh, these are everywhere.
I couldn't
And more and
imagine
more pop
having
up.
something to deal with that big.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
a lot.
gosh.
It's a lot, but it's fun. They enjoy it. It's a lot. I'll tell you, during the heat of the summer, it's a lot to mow that blackberry patch. I'm very happy, like at the end of July when they start shriveling up,
Yeah.
because mowing it, and they're all thorny. So you get those branches that overhang. So I'm mowing on that mower, and I'm like dodging,
ripping your arms.
dodging thorns and ripping legs and everything. I come in covered in blood, and I'm like, the patch is mowed again. Kids are like, thanks, Dad. I'm like, you have no idea what I've had to do to get blackberries for you.
Well, soon they'll be mowing for you, right?
There you go.
Hey, Clint Pollard, a buddy of ours, posted a picture of his daughter Taylor. I want to say Taylor's 7, mowing on the zero turn.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how's she doing? He's like, surprisingly well. I'm like, wow, I wouldn't think to start him at 7, but
That
put a seatbelt
is-
on him and let him roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love the sounds of that.
I know,
Yeah.
right? It's I'm looking forward to that. Although I'll tell you, mowing is a guilty pleasure of mine.
Oh, I love it.
Because there's very few times where I can
Therapy.
take 100%.
Yeah.
I can take 3 hours out of my day, and I put ear pods in,
That's
to
right.
protect my ears.
That's right.
But I put ear pods in, and I do lines, and I don't think about at all anything else other than maybe a book on tape or something. But
Yeah.
like can kind of shut everything else out, and then you realize because you're not always looking at the horizon. Like sometimes I just been looking at the ground for 3 hours. I don't feel bad about it at all.
No.
It's a nice little way to waste the Saturday.
Hey, real quick before
Yeah.
you dive into something else.
That's
So
where I was going. This is great.
Well, Kevin asked. He said, "Yeah, Kevin jumped in here, and he was asking, what is the Argentinian food that you're doing on the Hasty?" Kevin Snell. asked
Oh,
that.
hey, Kevin. What's up, man? So there are a lot of things that we have done that's Argentinian based, and that we've done picanha, but the fruits that Francis Mallman does are so delicious. You were talking about pineapple earlier, and there's so many different ways to do them, but I go desserty with those.
I do too.
And that I think because of the sweetness comes out so strong, and it's overbearing on some proteins, and I don't think
Yeah,
they
your
pair up
sweetness
as
will
well.
double over fire on a pineapple.
Oh, yeah.
Like it absolutely candies it.
So that I had made a custard, and I hollowed out a pineapple, put that on the Hasty Bake on a pan, and got my oven up to, and I was in bake setting, and cooked that custard, and then I went ahead and bruleed the top of it on a pineapple. And I
In
did
the
that-
pineapple?
Yeah, and I did that for a party of 4. It took a little bit longer to set up. It was kind of a learning curve. I tried
You
it
do a
couple
whole
months.
pineapple, or you cut it?
Just in half.
Okay.
And then hollow it out, and then pour your custard that you've made into it.
Right.
Put that on the Hasty Bake on a pan, and then it comes out, and you can kind of tell when it's going to set. Let it set up a little bit.
Right.
Hit it with some sugar, torch it, and when you take that out to the table and you put 3 or 4 spoons in it, and do those for 6 or 8, 10
Yeah.
friends, that
That's so
is
good.
yes, delicious.
We like hanging them when I can, especially when we do like Santa Maria stuff. And one trick that I learned from an Argentinian buddy of mine is he'll take a spoon and he'll rotate it and carve designs into it, and then he coats it down in cinnamon and sugar, and sometimes they'll do some coffee or they'll do some cocoa powder, and it darkens up on the outside, and as that pineapple shrinks, like those carvings come out, and it just looks like it's thinking work of art, man.
Yeah.
It's so good. Zach doesn't want to talk anymore about pineapple though, because he's done.
Yeah.
We did what do we call? I guess we called them candied pineapple.
Yeah,
you
just-
know, burn endy kind of
Yeah.
thing this last weekend.
Yeah.
But we grilled it, we speared them and then grilled them off, and then tossed them in. I think I did. What did I do? I did brown sugar.
We did brown sugar, cinnamon,
I did
a little, bit
little
of cherry,
habanero and cherry.
and some rum.
Yeah, I think we used some black rum on them.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what we did because we made a slurry.
Yeah.
And then we coated it. Yeah, it was good. But that was 500 pineapple spears
Had
later.
you guys have ever done that before?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You've done that
not
dish
maybe not
before?
that exact.
Not-
okay.
Well,
I think I'd done some a lot of people do like the Fireball pineapple thing, and Fireball's okay. I'd rather put cinnamon and like good rum in it
Right.
than use Fireball. But yeah, I mean, we've done variations of it. But pineapple's just so fun to cook.
Yeah.
If if I'm doing anything live fire, Hasty Bake is great on it, but a live fire especially, like I always just grab a pineapple because you can always figure out something to do with it.
Heck yeah.
For sure.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Blackberry wine, yes, Kevin, that's also a good call.
Oh.
Trey,
So,
ribs?
Yeah, he asked, he said, what is your tips on cooking your glazed ribs, and do you only do those on Saturday nights?
Well, I do them for a lot of different people.
Yeah.
Trey's had those before.
Yeah.
As well as a lot of people here in town have. That for years we didn't peel the membrane off the back,
Really?
and that we found that it held moisture in close to the rib.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason or other, and we quit buying Smithfield just for the reasons of it being a China-owned company,
Yeah.
and that I'm not all that political of a person, but I
Sure.
kind of had a problem with that. So that now that we're using a different product, that we feel as though that we have to take the membrane off to get that tenderness. But I think that if you add something that is real piquant to the rib while you're glazing, and that usually happens the last 30 minutes. Of course, you're spritzing them with whatever your
Right.
favorite spritz is. You said pineapple earlier. That's a really good one, especially if you put like some El Dorado rum in it. Get a little spritz of that. And
But you said last 30 minutes on something like that?
last 30 minutes is when we start glazing. I always put ginger in my glaze, and that ginger heightens and elevates the
Oh, yeah.
outside of the
Do
layer.
you use a powdered ginger, or is it something you fresh down? Okay.
Just fresh,
You grind it down, or
We
you
grate it.
Okay.
Take the skin off of it, and then just
just
grate it down, and use the microplane and just get it real fine, and then that goes in with some other stuff that we put on in the glaze. And it's soy based,
Yeah.
brown sugar.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I love it. Zach, I can't tell on my screen who is the person who is absolutely wrong and put pineapple is for pizza and beans are for chili. You see that on your? It might not be. I can't tell because it just says Facebook user.
That's Kevin Snell.
That's Kevin Snell.
Yep.
Kevin, we'll have words.
Yeah.
buddy. but you know that.
Yeah.
We'll have words.
Yeah.
Break down without giving too much away, like the inspiration for the hot chicken and like how you kind of achieve that.
Well, a buddy of mine that you also know, Brian McCullough, moved
Yeah.
to LA not too long ago.
Yeah.
And there is a chicken place that's out there.
In LA?
They're doing 1,500 people a day out of 800 square feet.
Wow.
15. They're lined up
lot
for
of
2
chicken.
blocks.
Yeah.
Wow.
And people are just killing it.
Yeah.
So we collaborated back and forth. There wasn't a hot chicken sandwich in Tulsa.
Yeah.
So we put it together, and he tweaked it a little bit, and he goes, "Oh, it's Howlin' Rays. If you haven't heard of them,
I have
and
heard of
if
it.
you,
Yeah.
if you need to Google it and see some of the pictures of all the stuff that they do, and everything's so advanced now. We don't want to. That's not our mainstay. I mean,
Sure.
we've got so many
Sure.
other things, and there's not enough time and so many specials that we can put out
Right.
there. But so we got it together. Own pickles. We make the bun. The slaw's all fresh, and
Right.
we make it in 2 degrees. Where like locally here, Philip does it, and
18 degrees.
Yeah.
I took my girls one time with a cheer group over here to Mother Road. And it was a snowy night, and we went in there and we got some hot chicken. One of the girls was saying, "I like it as hot as we can get it."
No.
No, you
you
do not.
No,
Like
you
it.
do
And
not.
I was. That was the exact same
Yeah.
thing. No, my dad and me.
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, honey, here you go."
Yeah.
And I think it was a 10.
Let me know what else I need to buy you when you
And
don't.
of course,
yeah.
Yeah.
when girls are in 5th and 6th grade, they sniff it and then lick it a little bit and
Oh, yeah.
look at it like this. And then she just put it up to her mouth
Yeah.
and didn't really even get a bite on it. And she almost started crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, "Why did you want to do that to yourself?" And she just totally went into a meltdown.
Yeah.
And all the other girls were laughing at her.
Yeah.
You feel
And so-
bad for her, but also you brought this on yourself.
Yeah. Correct. Like, I'll try to stop you one time, but at some point you're going to have to learn that lesson.
And like, I get a 1.
Right.
Now, I don't like my stuff really, really hot. I like sweet and heat together. I
Yep.
can handle that really well. But just when it's just straight up heat,
Yeah.
can't do it.
I find the 0 is too bland for me, and the 2 is brutal.
Yeah.
And I don't know how high does he go?
It's like 10.
It's like
Yeah.
10, right?
yeah.
He's a sadist. If
Yeah.
we're being honest, like I feel like he's watching the camera.
I don't
Right.
know how he gets it that hot because I mean we use ghost peppers and I know that there's skunks out there and some other peppers that are
Yeah.
much hotter than what
I
like,
gotta
Right.
figure he's, and I'm making this up, but the only thing I've been able to think of is I think he's infusing, and it may be Reaper, but I think he's infusing it multiple different ways. I think it's like in the rub, in the oil, in the so they're.
but it's not a powder because none of it has that chalky finish in your
No,
mouth.
well, that's why
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's in the batter itself,
right.
and then there's something. Maybe it's oil in the oil. Maybe they have a whole different hot
There you
oil
go.
or something,
Maybe it's
or they're
just-
hitting it with the oil after the fact.
It's just on fire.
Because I do know there's it's not Rose's is here. What's the big one in Nashville? Hattie B's.
Right.
Oh,
I know that they have a special oil they hit theirs with after the fact. They fry it, they
Yeah.
let it sit, and then they dip it, and then they like coat it down in a special oil that is like a brutal, like make you cry kind of. Well, I don't know what the carrier is on it or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's definitely it's very intense. But I've never been a spicy fan to the point where it hurts.
no, I love spice.
want balance.
I love spice. But I don't want to. Yeah, I don't
There's
want to be
people who want to hurt,
miserable.
man. Like those
Yeah.
people, the hot ones, kind of, chicken
Yeah.
wing type. There's people who they don't mind being miserable because it's a challenge to them.
Yeah.
We do it hot and screaming hot.
Yeah.
And we sell them at about 50%.
Uh,
Half the people get
oh,
them
really?
screaming hot. And there'll be girls that'll come in, yeah, I'm from Dallas. I eat this stuff all the time.
Right.
And I want the screaming hot because I'm sure it won't even be hot enough for me.
Right.
And then as soon as I'll go over and see them, their face is all
red and
flush
they're wiping snot
they're
away.
tearing
Yeah.
and all this other stuff. And I said,
Yeah.
are you okay? Do we need some more water?
Do you have
Can't
milk?
hardly
Yeah.
breathe.
Yeah.
Right. Now, do you eat the screaming hot?
No.
Too
I
hot.
can't do it.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't even like the hot one.
Really?
It's too hot for me.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But I know the flavor profiles of it, and I
Right.
know how to build it. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. It's a dang good sandwich, man. Not gonna lie.
Thanks.
I've sent many people over there for hot chicken sandwiches. 'Cause-
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
yeah. It's
They
good.
usually announce themselves too when they come in.
They love to do that. Hey,
Yeah.
so and so told me about
Right.
That's good. Well, you know what we'll do? One night we'll need to do a live podcast over at Boston.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, that'd be
That'd be a
cool.
blast.
Yeah, that'd be fun. We'll get some people coming in, and
Yeah.
we'll do something fun with that.
That'd
That'd
be
be
a
good.
blast.
Hey, I don't. Is there anything else? I know I've been trying to monitor
No.
comments here as they pop up.
No, that was really it. Those are the two questions.
If you're ever in Dallas, check out Mike's Chicken. We can do that. Never heard of Mike's Chicken.
I haven't heard of
Very
Mike's either.
generic name,
Yeah.
but I've heard of Steve's Chicken.
Yeah.
Got Rogers Chicken, not so much on the Mike's Chicken. Hey, real quick, so last time we tried to do this, thing got shit canned because of the power outage.
Yeah.
How did you guys come out of the power outage? Did you get everything worked out, or is it
Boy, they.
Yeah.
pretty rough?
It was rough.
Yeah.
We're out of power for 7 days. Lost 100% of all our product.
Yeah.
During COVID, I'd made one of the silliest mistakes I think I probably have ever made is that I adjusted all my deductibles on all my
Oh, yeah,
insurance.
yeah.
So, and my policies broke down into 3 different areas. So it's one's food, one's labor,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
loss of business. And so I jacked all my deductibles from like 1,000 to 7,500.
Right.
And it was like 28,000, I think is what we came up with food that we had lost.
Right.
And so after talking, I know a couple people that own some huge insurance companies, and I talked with them for a long period of time, and they told me that, well, you're going to be going up like 38%.
Yeah.
And so amortizing that over a 3-year period, I self-paid it.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
couldn't claim on any of that stuff, but we got a lot of stuff clean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is
Which
that is
was-
a good benefit.
which
You haven't
was-
had an empty walk-in in a
which
while.
was awesome. And that there were some freezer items that we were able to save. A friend of mine owns the Arby's that they're getting ready to demolish at 42nd and Peoria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he put a compressor on their freezer,
Oh.
got it fired up. We took our stuff over there. This all happened within like a 6-hour period.
Yeah.
Right.
And we just hauled our stuff down there and kept it down there for a week,
that's
and then
good.
started reordering. The worst thing about it is the prep leading into it.
Oh, yeah, I
Because
bet.
we were prepped up to do dinner that next day for business. and we had nothing. So I mean, we had to smoke turkeys and hams and beef and prime rib and chickens,
What a
and I mean,
day.
it was crazy. So
Yeah.
we had, we only have 16 people working at the restaurant, but we all worked like 3 days straight,
Just to
leading
get everything
into it
ready.
after we got the power up, and then
Right.
we opened up, and it was just like boom.
Yeah.
It was like nothing had ever happened.
Well, I'm glad people kind of came around.
I know you guys, the tree thing was a big deal for you.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
popped a hole in the roof. It did some damage to some machines. I think we were down 4 or 5 days here, but and we've talked about this on the podcast before. But the brutal thing is, in production when you're running, 3 or 4 shifts depending on the day. If you're down 4 days, you're down a month.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
we may be back, but you've lost a month's worth of production over
Yeah.
that 4-day period. So trying to
Catch up.
kick that back on and catch back up, and then run into scratch and dent season, and which is funny. You think Father's Day is so far away from scratch and dent, but we start prepping for that so many months in
Yeah.
advance that it was not fun.
Yeah.
I know a lot of guys during that power outage time where they were in the same boat with you though. They're like, it's right on the edge of whether I want to file a claim, and it's just not worth it because of, everything getting jacked up. So it's
Right.
Yeah, it was brutal for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, now that I've got my deductibles back to where they're supposed to be,
Right.
'cause I did that like the next day.
Yeah, I bet.
And they said, "Are you ready to turn a claim in?" And I said, "No, I'm just going to self-pay it." And so I'm hoping that they were accurate with the 38% increase, because that was, I don't know, it was like 40 grand over a 3-year
So
period.
you're rolling a lot of dice on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez.
That's the food business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Hey, before we wrap, I want to give people a couple more minutes insight into you outside of restaurants. So we've talked about all the restaurant stuff, all the cooking stuff. Man, what do you get to do in the 3 hours of a week that you get to your own time?
Well, I love to fish. I know you guys like to fish too.
Yeah, buddy.
Kind of probably my big deal is upland hunting
Yep.
and waterfowling. I love that. Just
You do
gotta-
Kansas a lot, don't you?
I do Kansas. Yeah. Like 5 years ago, 8 years ago, I had 30,000 acres to hunt on up there.
Really?
And it was prime.
Really?
All of it was good. And I was hauling people up like CEOs of companies and taking them, 3 or 4 guys up there at a time.
Yeah.
And one of them shot one of my dogs one time.
Oh, my
And I always tell everybody that I take out in the field, if you shoot one of my dogs, because they're all like 10, 15, 20 grand dogs.
Yeah.
And that, you need to cut me a check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I had a GSP down on point, and birds came up low. And I said, wait till you see sky.
Yeah.
And he shot. The dog fell down sideways. And I went, oh, my God. And I yelled at the dog, whistled him. He got up, lifted his head up, and I went, oh, my God, he didn't kill it. So he ran up to me, and I just loaded up. I had 4 dogs down at that point, just, got them back to the trailer, threw them back in the trailer.
Right.
I left them sitting in the middle of the field
As you should.
and
Yeah.
left.
Yeah. That's.
And then I called his daughter, who handles all of his, financial stuff,
Yeah.
and I said,
Right.
I need a check for $5 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what for? I said, you need to ask your dad.
Yeah.
And so, like, after him cussing me out a few times that he didn't shoot the dog, then I gave him
As
pictures.
you're
of
pulling
the-
pellets out of the. Yeah.
well, I sent him X-rays from the
Yeah.
vet, because
Yeah.
I immediately went into Hutch
Yeah.
and had X-rays done,
Sure.
and there was like 8 or 10 pellets.
Yeah.
That dog's still alive now.
Wow.
He just can't hunt very good. He's
Right.
really slow.
Slow
Yeah.
on that.
He's
Yeah.
not on his deal, and he's a senior citizen anyway.
That's right.
But, like Upland's getting ready to start. South Dakota starts in mid-October.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska is the week after that. Kansas is the week after that.
So do you go hunt all that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's
We're
awesome.
getting ready to do it. Just got another puppy just last week. A friend of mine, Robert Ritchie, who's a big waterfowler here in town.
Mm-hmm.
His wife, Stacy, who he has turned into one of the premier amateur Labrador trainers in this part of the country.
Right.
And very well connected. So I just got a really good in on another Labrador puppy. Like,
So you
I
haven't,
needed
you
one.
haven't started and everything?
Yes, I haven't started the dog. I've only had the dog like a week.
Gotcha.
So we're doing like little puppy stuff right now, but
Which is
probably
cleaning up a lot of pee at this
Yeah.
point.
Right.
the dog's house trained
Really?
Wow.
already.
Wow.
Crate trained, sit, speak, fetch.
That ain't bad. That's the way to go right there.
Yeah.
It's good.
Kidding.
Good work if you can get it.
No kidding. Yeah.
You have to pick a good dog to start off with.
That's
though.
right.
And
That's
I kind of fell into this one. But yeah, I'm really excited about this season coming up. I've been getting good reports from around Lewis, Kansas, Great Bend, and so forth.
Bird numbers are looking good.
The pheasant numbers are good. Everything else is down. Quail's down.
Yeah.
Oklahoma quail's down. Back in the day, you could go to northern Oklahoma on I-35, Brahma, and so forth.
Right.
You could shoot your limit in, like 10 minutes.
Right.
You'd be heading home.
Right.
And it's nothing like that now. The deer hunters have taken over.
Yeah.
Well, they pay a lot more money for their leases. I know that because I pay them.
They'll take an acre for $5,000.
It's man, it's insane. Lease prices for us. We used to pay, somewhere around $3 to $5 an acre, and now you're up in like the $15, $17, $20 an acre range. Which, when you're leasing between 500 and 10,000 acres, like those numbers add up unbelievably
Very quickly.
And I know bird hunters are not used to paying those kind of numbers in a lot of ways, and it's nuts.
I show up with baby backs or
There
like
you
smoked turkey and stuff like that.
That's right.
All of a sudden, I've got a friend for life.
Yeah,
There you
well,
go.
but you know what you're not doing? You're not planting food plots, and you're not putting up stands.
True.
That's
And
right.
you're not putting out feeders and fencing and doing all this other stuff. So they're happy to have somebody walk around for a
Right.
back of baby or back of
That's
baby
right.
backs,
Yep, exactly.
That's fun.
It worked out good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're hoping that's going to be good. And I'd missed out on a little vacation that I had. I was going to go to the Bahamas. I think I shared that
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
I was going to go do some permit and bone fishing.
Yeah.
And my passport, it expired.
Oh no.
And I had no idea.
When did you find out?
About a month before. And I
At
called
least it
them
wasn't
up.
like the week of.
It didn't make a difference.
yeah.
It's 6 months.
Yeah.
It's 4 to 6 months where you could get that loaded.
We had so Brandon, who works in our store, he had the same situation. Like I think he put his passport in March for renewal, and he got it 2 days before his trip.
Yeah.
When was his trip?
Late
July.
July, early August. But so here's a trick, and here's the trick for me. Now I don't know if this is across the board, but I feel like it might be. So we paid because we're going to Mexico in January, and my wife's and I passport had expired, and the kids had never had one. So we were going to put the passport in, and I paid the expedite fee, which is not cheap,
Right.
which helps. But I heard from the guy at the post office. He said, "When's your trip?" And I said, "January." And he goes, "You need to put your trips in 3 weeks because they don't prioritize it based on your expedite fee. They prioritize it based on when you need your passport.
Right.
So as long as you pay the fee and your trip is upcoming, you'll get it like that." So apparently that's without calling in favors. That may be the trick because we got ours in 3.5 weeks.
Are your leases in Oklahoma?
Yes.
You already got your stands up? Lots out?
Yes and no. So feeders are out, cameras are up. It was a horrible summer for plots, so none of those really took. Stands should be going out this weekend, but we're got a tailgate, so we'll see.
Yeah. You got a party, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah, so I got to get some stands out for sure. I'm always feel like I'm behind the curve. No matter how early we start, we're always behind the curve.
Anything on cam yet that you've caught?
Some decent. Got some 10s and some 12s. I mean, still, Oklahoma's got this big disparage, gap in the middle where you get like 180 class deer, or you get like 110 class deer. So I got some decent 120s that are walking in. Hard to tell. Some of them are still in velvet, which is kind of nice, but
Right.
it's really hard to kind of tell where they're going to end up. But I mean, we got, it should be a pretty solid year. Luckily, it wasn't too, I feel like everyone's like, this summer was so hot, and we definitely had hot weeks.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've had like longer spanses of heat before, so I feel like we're going into it. We got some decent deer numbers. Mm-hmm. We'll see.
Have you heard anything about the brucellosis thing on the deer this year?
I've heard that it's in
Heard
state,
about it.
Yeah,
but I haven't. Obviously, we haven't encountered anything. I don't, do you know if numbers are going up?
they are. That's
Yeah.
what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's for anybody who's not hunters out there, there's certain strains of diseases, chronic wasting disease. How do you pronounce it, Bert?
Brucellosis.
Brucellosis. A couple of these strains that will they will wreak havoc on deer numbers. Like it's basically a plague that'll kind of come through and do some real bad things to deer. And we had a maybe 10 or 15 years ago a run of CWD come through, I believe. And it took us 4 or 5 years to bounce back any kind of usable deer numbers. I mean, it was absolute shit for years and years. So hoping that we can kind of keep it out again.
It's always fun though to get out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
doubt.
my little sanctuary every now and then is I'll break
Yep.
out for a
That
few
and
hours.
mowing.
That and mowing.
Mowing.
You got to take it when you can get it.
That's
man.
right. Take it where you can get it.
The quiet things and apparently the really loud things. Those are the two.
There you go.
Yeah, I
There you
love
go.
it. Well, hey Ken, how can people track you down online, in person, in the store? What's the best way to?
TheBostonDeli.com.
Okay.
Just go to TheBostonDeli.com and we take inquiries there and help you out with catering events
Right.
and help you set up, like programs and dinners, a lot of corporate parties that are coming up. Just here within the last couple of years, we've noticed that corporate parties that were going to the club here in town and so forth, that they're now doing it at their houses. And
Really?
so we'll bring in a service staff, and they'll have 20 people at one table, and beautiful arrangements. So we got florists that we work with, and
So do you guys do full
planners
service?
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's where
That's
like we've
awesome.
really accelerated at, is then we do very elegant tweezer food
Right.
for like up to 40 people in their own house.
Right.
Clients love that stuff. They don't have to go anywhere.
Sure.
Well, and that's not that common anymore to have full service catering without. I mean, obviously you'll contract some of that stuff out, but it's a lot of times people are like, we do the food, but you got to handle everything else.
Yeah.
So obviously you have the experience though.
We help them organize all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Definitely.
That's cool.
And so 61st and Sheridan, right?
Park Plaza Shopping Center,
Yeah.
Tucked down in the pit that is there below the deep wall.
just around the corner from our friends at Oklahoma Joe's.
Yep. Great. Yeah, and your normal hours. Let's give them that too.
Well, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or excuse me, Monday through Thursday, lunch is from 11 to 5,
Okay.
and dinner starts at 5 o'clock. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is dinner.
Okay.
Close at 8, so it's just short time.
Right.
It's kind of like Adam's hours almost.
Yeah.
Right.
We're open at 10, we're closed at 2, or I'm not even sure. Is he open?
I think he
past that
goes
now?
till 3 now.
Till
They're
3?
not doing dinner service anymore, but I want to say he's open till 3 or 3:30 now. But I mean, if you go at 3, you're getting bologna.
Right.
So pretty well. That's
Yeah.
everywhere that
Right.
has
Yeah, well,
barbecue.
that's fair.
Right.
They
Yeah.
want to run out
For sure.
And so, a real quick question: what do you guys think about Alley Cat?
Uh,
Have you been over there?
I thought they
Oh,
were
yeah.
great. They're doing
Yeah.
well.
It's great.
Their mac and cheese is good.
Yeah, they've got some pretty creative stuff on their menu. I mean, and the cool thing is they got some heavy hitters. So Nikki's over there, of kind of Burnco and stuff, and then they have 2 or 3 other people on staff that pulling from Watershed that have tons of experience. So,
Right.
Also, shout out to Nick. So, Scratch and Dent. I don't remember. It
Nick
was,
Corcoran, not me.
yeah, but I don't remember if it was Thursday or Friday. I think it was Thursday, and we were. I mean, that's the big day, the very first day of Scratch and Dent, and that early afternoon, Nick comes by with a whole bunch of food for us.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I knew you guys probably wouldn't take time to do anything, so he brought us and fed us a whole bunch of stuff from Alley Cat.
Yeah.
So
Wow, that's
Very sweet of him,
awesome.
for
Yeah.
sure. And he said something on his Facebook about having an announcement coming up with Alley Cat. I'm hoping they're moving into their brick and mortar, but we'll see.
yeah.
How that works.
That's a
Food-
great
food truck
transition
is so rough.
for
man.
people to do
Yeah.
that, and you have to have. There has to be some
We
dollar
got-
signs that are involved with that to
Yeah.
to go big or go
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like Christmas or holidays and cold weather's around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they can get
great.
in now, that'd be the
It's
best
great.
time.
Yeah, I would.
So yeah, they've been very impressive. Yeah, so if you're looking for a fun new barbecue place in town, Alley Cat Ranch over, what do they call that district? By Bohemia and
Yeah, I
Blue
forget.
Dome.
no, it's
it's-
further
It's
You know, I'm
it's-
sorry, I don't know.
yeah, it's not
East
in the
Village.
Blue Dome.
East Village.
East-
that is
East
it.
Village,
You're
right?
Okay, yeah.
like so it's right there. It's just I want to say north of Hodges Bend and Bohemian Pizza on the other side of Lowood.
Yeah.
So some really good place. Lowood's great.
Yeah.
Some really good places down there too. So awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Ken, thank you for coming in tonight, man. I'm glad we
Yes.
finally
Welcome.
made this happen. I know it's been a long time coming.
It has been.
I think we've been
Yeah.
talking about it
We've
since
tried.
COVID almost.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we get here one of these days. But a lot of fun. Hey guys, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes.
And getting to meet Ken a little bit, learn about his life and his food. And if you are in the Tulsa area, definitely, we would say this for anyone who comes on, like check out their food. But I'll tell you, like Ken's stuff is absolutely
Yes.
outstanding. And it's, I will say, not that it means a lot coming from me, but it's a Tulsa gem as far as just
Yeah.
creative and fun and different. And obviously, pays homage with Hasty Bake and everything else to Tulsa. So very neat place, man, that we're happy to send people to. And we're glad you're able
Thanks
to
for
make it
the
tonight.
opportunity.
Absolutely. We will see you guys soon. Keep an eye on Facebook, on Instagram, on all the channels for everything coming up with
That's
us
it.
on the road here. It's a busy season. It's
It
going to be
is.
fun, though. We're looking forward to it.
That's right.
We'll see you guys again. Thanks for being here.
See ya.
Good.
Wait a minute, Pop, wait a minute. What's your best whiskey? Kentucky bourbon.